Good morning. Hello. Welcome to Ayurveda Every Day with Talya. How are you? I'm so happy that you're here. So, happy Ayurveda Day. It is National Ayurveda Day. Honestly, this is the first year I've even known that there was such a thing. But I just absolutely love that there is. And this video is my way of celebrating this awesome science. I feel so grateful to be to get to teach the medicine of Ayurveda that is so very healing and life changing and transformative. Certainly changed my life when I found it over 18 years ago. And I see it change people's lives all the time. It's just extraordinary. So I belong to an organization called the National Ayurvedic Medical Association, and they they're kind of like the governing body for Ayurvedic practitioners in the United States and maybe elsewhere. Um, but they had sent me this Ayurveda um, everyday pledge. I'm putting the name of Ayurveda Every Day with Talia in there. And the pledge is it's about how do you make Ayurveda an integral part of your daily life. How to enable good health. This is the pledge. I pledge to make Ayurveda an integral part of my daily life so that it enables good health and well being for myself, my family, my community, and that I'm living in harmony with nature, that my actions are in harmony with nature. Because that's really what Ayurveda is all about, is helping you align your your actions, your, shall we say, habits, your rituals, your go-to activities, aligning them more and more and more with nature so that you're more aligned with your own nature as a um, really a divine being that is part of nature. I was petting my dog last night and I was like, you're such an amazing animal. Like, wow, you're an animal. I'm like, I'm an animal too. So Ayurveda is getting us in touch with our true nature, our and this pledge, which I was meditating on yesterday, of how do I want to celebrate making this pledge be a part of my everyday and the everyday part of life for the people who listen to me and allow me to be their teacher. So I want to talk about three powerful ways that you can live the Ayurveda Everyday Pledge, making Ayurveda an integral part of your life, but also it's not only about you, it's about how it affects your community, your family, um, and has you living in harmony with nature in a really big way. So number one, I the most powerful thing I think we can do is have consciousness around our food. And as you know, because if you're watching this right now, then you're obviously somebody who's interested in Ayurveda or has been studying Ayurveda for a little while. You already know that Ayurveda is all about transforming your relationship with food and nutrition, and specifically, what foods do you eat? So, if you are somebody who runs really hot, you're not going to constantly be eating chocolate and salt and chilies and all these spicy, rich foods because it'll make you even more hot. You don't need to increase the qualities that are already strong within you. Most of the time, we want to decrease those qualities or balance those qualities. So if you're somebody who runs super hot and you've got a lot of uh, tendency towards inflammation or oiliness or night sweats, whatever it is for you that symptomatically, you would be choosing food that balances that heat. Things that are cooling, like marshmallow root tea, or cucumber slices in your water, or when you go to make a dish like khichdi, which is a super healing restorative meal made from grains and lentils, you would go for the coolest grains, the coolest lentils. Like, for example, and I know this gets into details, but this is what makes Ayurveda work so incredibly well. So if you look at the world of lentils, we've got red lentils, white lentils, yellow lentils, black, brown, green. And if you really can think about, okay, well, color is showing me something about the essence of that food, something about the essence of that food's energy. So if I look at red lentils, the color red shows me heat. Just like if I look at pink Himalayan salt versus gray Himalayan salt, when I see the color pink, it's showing me, the food is showing me that it has warmth or heat to it. So if I know I run hot, I know I'm going to be like, okay, I don't think I want the red. I don't think I want the pink. What would be cooling? Green is cooling, white is cooling. A lot of times yellow has a cooling property to it, although not always. But in this scenario of choosing a lentil, I would definitely go with the green mung bean, which is technically a lentil, or even dal, which is the white lentil. And then I'm doing something that's cooling. And when I'm looking at what grain I would use, quinoa is really warming. Amaranth is really warming, but rice is not. So maybe I would do even white rice, which would be even more cooling than brown rice. So you get the gist of that piece is there. But when I think about taking the Ayurveda Everyday Pledge, it's more about how you choose your food and making sure that you make a commitment to yourself to learn how to cook your own food so that the food that you're sourcing is either food that you grew, food that a local farmer grew, food that your local health food store carries, meaning like the produce, the fruit, the vegetables, all of it, that you make sure that you apply a level of consciousness to the companies that you buy from. Like you don't just buy, if you're looking at, I don't know, it could be anything like a green superfood powder. You don't just buy the one that's the cheapest. You read the ingredients, you read what the company has to say about their product, and not only from a marketing perspective, like who is this company? What are their values? What's really important to them? Because if it's something that you think is, if it's important to you in terms of a value, like, wow, they really value integrity. And I know that they do because this company is willing to be out of stock on their product if they can't source the highest quality ingredients, versus they say that they're about integrity, but if they can't get high quality spirulina from, wherever, China, wherever they're getting it from. Spirulina doesn't usually come from China. That was a bad example. Seaweed could come from China or Japan or California or the East Coast. But if they can't get a really high quality source for their ingredient, they'll be like, you know what, we're out of stock for a little bit. We'll let you know when it's back because we're committed to the integrity of this product. So, like, for example, whenever you hear me talk about a company that I love, and I really do talk about companies I love a lot because I'm thinking about the values of those companies. Most of the time, I'm not making any money when I talk about a company. Every once in a while I might be if like I get a commission if you use my unique link to buy their product. But most of the time I'm just talking about companies as an educator, being like, you know what, I checked out this company and they're super awesome. For the reasons I'm saying, integrity, things I value, and things that I think that Ayurveda every day as a pledge, when we're thinking about what's good for me, my family, my community, living in harmony with nature, we have to be choosing only products that nurture earth, that give back to the earth. So, you really have to scour your mind and your medicine cabinet, your cleaning supply cabinet, to evaluate it, that you are truly in alignment with products that are living in harmony with nature. One more example I'll give is I had a client here the other day who was asking me if she should use lemon essential oil. And I was like, like not on your body because she's not super congested and oily and wet and thick and gunky. She's Vata predominant, so she's more dry and cold and light. And lemon as an essential oil is very astringent, very drying, very, 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 very drying. So it would be pretty unusual circumstances or specific circumstances, excuse me, for somebody to need to use lemon essential oil on their body. But as a cleaning supply, that would be amazing, especially when you're buying it from an essential oil company that you have researched and know has really strong ethics and good moral practices in how they certainly how they distill their essential oil, but also where they grow their essential oil and why do they grow it there and what's their relationship like with their farmers. All of those things really matter. So I think that this first thing about choosing your food, it's about really being, as the consumer, you have so much power. And so let's bring our power to the marketplace and be like, we really care about where food comes from, how it is grown, what is given back to the earth when it's grown. I had a boyfriend once who brought over sausages to my house that he had bought at a major grocery store. And it was like, for me, it was so gross. And we had just met. This was like one of our very first dates. He came over to make breakfast. And I remember just sitting down and I found a way to say it really gracefully. But I was like, I can't eat this. And I can't even allow us to cook this here. Like, this just is so outside of my values. Like um, you know, let me show you a different way. Because he didn't know. And it was actually really cool for him to be like, I had never thought about it. I had never thought about that where I get meat matters. Now, I may be, preaching to the choir here. I don't know. But if this message is, hitting any of you in the right spot, then I'm really glad. And I think what's one last thing that's tied into this point is, money. Food is not supposed to be cheap. High quality, amazing, beautiful food. It's not supposed to be super expensive either, but it's certainly not supposed to be cheap. So, being being somebody who's really living Ayurveda, I think you have to also expand your mind to be like, I am worth investing in. And when I spend money on my self care, whether that's getting an Ayurvedic massage, which you absolutely must try if you have never tried it, you have to do that. It's so different from any other type of massage and just so incredibly profound for your nervous system, your lymphatic system, your circulatory system. Nothing compares. But investing in yourself in all kinds of ways, the products that you do buy, the foods that you choose, that's really important that you don't be, that you practice expanding your mind in and affirming that, I'm going to put my dollars where my values are. And that may mean spending a little more than I'm comfortable with initially, but I'm just going to decide that this matters to me, and miraculously, I will be able to afford everything that I want and need when it comes to my health and my self-care. So that's number one. Choosing your food, the way that you choose your food and your products is so important, and that's one way that you can powerfully live the Ayurveda Everyday pledge. Number two is learn how to cook your own food. So, a major epidemic in America, and I think other countries too, is processed food is really bad for you. Hey, Jackie, processed food, not always, right? You can find a company that, again, great values, like Living Intentions. They're one of my all-time favorite snack food companies. It's all raw. They only use like really good quality salt. They only use the highest quality ingredients. And it kind of shows in the price of their products, but their products are incredible. You feel amazing after you eat them, and you feel so good supporting a company like that. Like they even think about their packaging being compostable, and they really have gone the distance. But they are the rarity in terms of processed food that is already prepared for you in advance that you can grab off the shelf. And I see a lot of people's health really suffering because they think like maybe, oh, well, this soup is organic and it's made from vegetables, so it must be good for me. But they're not reading the label and seeing all of the preservatives and additives and natural flavors that are added, that are not underneath the scope of the USDA, for example, being like, what is a natural flavor? A company doesn't have to disclose that to you. It could literally be anything. It could literally be a chemical, but they don't have to disclose it, because to have the organic stamp, every single ingredient doesn't have to be organic. It's a certain percentage. I want to say it's 70%. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me on that. If you do know the statistic, feel free to put it into the comments underneath this video. But learning how to cook your food is so empowering. You get to decide every single thing that goes into it. And simple in Ayurveda, this is what's so cool and what made me love Ayurvedic cooking. Simple is so profound. So when I first found Ayurveda, and I thought I ate really healthy, I had no idea that flour tortillas and cold and hummus, dried hummus mix that I pulled from the bulk bin at the health food store was not the epitome of health. I thought I was just like doing so amazing. But, just that meal itself, even though I was creating a complete protein with a grain and a bean, I didn't realize how dry that meal was. I didn't realize how cold it was. I didn't realize that flour tortillas are processed. I didn't realize that hummus out of a bulk bin that's been dehydrated has some amount of processing to it. And so it was truly revolutionary when I just learned how to make my own hummus. And when I stopped eating tortillas and instead started eating things like flaxseed crackers or steamed or roasted root vegetables as my chips, or cooking a bowl of whole grains like brown rice or quinoa as my carbohydrate instead of something processed and made from flour like a tortilla. So this is the kind of stuff I teach in my Rad Cleanse program, of how we can swap out, kind of our typical, what we think of as like, well, it's pretty healthy, like I eat pretty healthy. But in Ayurveda, it's not even about what you eat, it's about what you digest. And if we're taking the Ayurveda Everyday Pledge, it's beyond that too. It's really like, this is to positively affect you, your family, your community, and live in harmony with nature. So again, the more whole the food is that you are purchasing, growing, and then preparing, the more in harmony with nature you are living. Whether it's the perfect thing for you or not, right? Like in terms of hot, cold, wet, and dry. So learning how to master just even one or two really simple Ayurvedic meals is huge. So my recommendation for you about that is, if you don't already own an Ayurvedic cookbook, have that be your task today. Or go onto an Ayurvedic website that has a bunch of recipes like joyfulbelly.com. They're such an incredible resource of recipes and education about what food, what different qualities foods have, so that you can match them to what you're trying to balance and heal inside of your own body. But here's an example of a really simple Ayurvedic meal that could totally rock your world, even if you ate it once a day. So this would be, learn how to master khichdi. Khichdi is one of the most renowned, profound, rejuvenative, restorative meals you can possibly eat. It's always given to in Ayurveda. It's often given to people who are older, who are rehabilitating from something. It's certainly what you would eat if you were recovering from being sick, because it's so easy to digest. It's a complete protein. It's already very much broken down in a certain sense. So it's very easy for the body to absorb and assimilate. And it's made from a whole grain. So I run cold, so I usually make my khichdi with quinoa, but it's traditionally done with rice. And then it's a lentil. So it could be any lentil, like I spoke about earlier in this video. It could be red, white, yellow, green, black, brown, whatever you need. And then it's often, it is always cooked with some spices like fresh ginger root or fresh turmeric root or both, or depending on how hot, cold, wet, and dry you are, different spices like coriander, cumin, asafoetida, fennel seed, caraway seed, even basil or rosemary. Like in my style of cooking, I get super creative with the spices because I like to, number one, enhance my food with enzymes, and spices are enzymes always. But I also like to play with the different flavor profile. So I switch out the grain and the lentil and the spices to make my khichdi different every time, and it's just more interesting and fun that way. Also, I'm able to make the khichdi based on how do I feel right now, what do I need right now. And it's really an amazing way to approach your cooking. So if you can master khichdi, you are golden, because what goes with khichdi? Some steamed dark leafy greens, or a bowl of steamed broccoli or cauliflower, or you could even take a handful of baby salad greens, throw them into the bottom of your bowl, pour your hot khichdi over it, and then you've wilted the greens and you can just incorporate it into your khichdi that way. And then alongside of this, you could just make a cup of fresh ginger tea, which is as simple as chopping up about an inch or two knuckle of fresh ginger root. I leave the skin on. I just make sure that I wash the ginger really well. I had a student from Japan once in my cooking class, and she was like, "Oh, there's so much nutrition in the skin. Don't take it off." So I've never taken it off since then. But you just boil that ginger root and then simmer the water for 5 or 10 minutes. That's fresh ginger tea, and that is anti-inflammatory, incredible for your circulation. Really great for digestion. So there is a simple, profound meal that really, once you master khichdi, it will take you about 10 minutes total of soaking the grain and the lentil, putting it in the pot, turning it on, putting it on simmer, coming back to notice when is it done, and putting those greens together in the fresh ginger tea. I mean, I can make that meal in 10 minutes. Maybe it'll take 15 for you because I'm an Ayurvedic chef, so I'm fast. But that is number two, a powerful way to live your Ayurveda everyday pledge. Like, be eating the food that Ayurveda shows us is so healing and beautiful, and make it yourself, because you'll just learn so much just from making that one meal in your own kitchen. And then the third thing, I was really thinking about this, this National Ayurveda Day, and what I wanted to share with you in this video. And if you took my Detox Your Body with Ayurveda bootcamp, you heard me say this a lot, but tip number 3, in terms of powerful things you can do to live the Ayurveda Everyday Pledge, is put yourself first. And, I spoke about this in the bootcamp as like, you matter, and how you feel matters. And you're the only one who's going to really be able to say how I feel matters. Because when you say that, that automatically means that you're like putting attention on yourself, that you are going to have to set some boundaries so that you can keep the attention on yourself. And that's huge. And it's very uncomfortable for a lot of people to do that, because they're used to being the person who gives to everybody else. They're used to being the one who puts themselves last. and takes care of everybody else first. And honestly, and I'm going to find a way to weave this into my teaching because I'm absolutely obsessed with the idea that this over giving, when we're not paying attention to ourselves, when we're not giving to ourselves, when we're not putting ourselves first, that is actually a symptom of codependency. So forgive me if you're like, what is she talking about? But this, I'm like obsessed with this right now. My teacher is Lisa A. Romano, and what she says about codependency, which is a need to be validated outside of yourself. Like, you don't know that you're okay as yourself, so you're looking outside of yourself for people to be like, no, you are okay, especially when you do something for me. Then, right, you get the validation that you are enough, that you have worth. I am totally this person's. This is why it's so validating for me right now. Good. Somebody thinks it's true too. So she says that codependency is on a spectrum. It's not like, oh, you're like this massive codependent, you're, hopeless. Like, no way, never, ever, ever. And this could be really mild for you, or it could be huge for you. But it doesn't really matter. I want us to be aware of this. Ayurveda is about raising your consciousness, raising your self-awareness. And if you can't give yourself the respect, the time, the care of just like, you know what? I get to come first once a day, every day in some form. So whether that is every morning that you wake up 15 minutes early before your kids wake up so that you can make a morning drink, hydrate your body first thing in the morning, and meditate for 5 minutes, or do a gratitude practice for 5 minutes, or do 10 minutes of yoga, and then be of service to your community, your family, your world at large. If you can't give that to yourself, that's a huge problem. And you are not living Ayurveda every day if you can't find a way to make that happen. And it does rock the boat in a lot of situations. Oh, Susie, love that. Um, where maybe I know I had a client whose husband was like, when she would go into the other room to do her self care, he would walk in and be like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, I want to have sex right now." And she'd have to leave her self care practice to go have sex with him when she didn't feel like having sex. It's like, what? And so part of our work together was about like, setting these kinds of boundaries and figuring out how she could be safe setting those kinds of boundaries within the confines of her marriage. And we all have to find where those places are within our own lives. It can be that you just are, you just get distracted really easily and you forget to put yourself first. Then that's a vata imbalance, and that's like something's underneath that. Like, what are you avoiding? Are you avoiding pain? Like, we want to start associating self-care and putting ourselves first with pleasure. And what I love about Ayurveda is that so much of the Ayurveda practice is pleasurable, but it also brings up pain and discomfort, and you need to be able to move through that. And that's why it's so powerful to work with an Ayurvedic practitioner. Like, if you've never had an Ayurvedic massage, you've got to try it. And I offer massage in Santa Cruz, so if you're in the Bay Area, you can come see me. Or if you're in the North Bay area in California, the Dhyana Center is an amazing place to go and get body work. But I had a client last night who injured her knee, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go in here. I'm going to see what I can do to diminish this inflammation and this swelling. And some of it was painful for her. But when she left, she was like, oh my God, my knee feels so much better. I knew that you would be able to get in there and move some of this stagnant energy. So when we have energy to move and it is thick or dense or stuck or it's been hanging out for a while, it will be uncomfortable, but it's so worth it. So my advice to you is learn Ayurveda, put yourself first. This is a lifelong this is a lifelong thing in terms of how vast Ayurveda is and how much you'll need to change the way that you practice Ayurveda as you change, as you evolve and grow and age. Because, Ayurveda is this science that's like, okay, aging is inevitable, happening to all of us, no matter what. We're all on the road to someday not being here anymore. And Ayurveda gives us all of these practices and all of these ways to maintain vibrant health as you evolve and as you change. And the more that you can spend some time meditating on who you are constitutionally, how you feel in the moment, and what Ayurveda has to offer you in terms of support and, remedies that balance you, the better that you'll feel and the more aligned with nature you'll be as you age. And you won't just be withering, bound for a convalescent home where everybody is hunched over. Maybe you'll be one of those old ladies who's like, I learned how to open my chest in my 40s and I never stopped, and I just make sure I open my chest, and so I've got great posture, and therefore I'm able to have a more open heart in my 70s. You know what I mean? It really ends up translating into things that are deeper than just like reduce inflammation, lose weight. I mean, we all want to feel better in our health, and that stuff is so important, but ultimately it comes down to who we are as emotional and spiritual beings, and we want to be the most loving and healthy emotional spiritual beings that we can. So you matter and your health matters, and that is really huge. And so yeah, keep empowering yourself, keep investing in yourself, even if it's just investing your time in watching a video like this. And I do want to say, I'm not sure when I'm going to do it, but I am planning this breast health webinar workshop because it is so important. Most of the people who are watching this are women, and even though this is for men too, it is so crucial that along the same lines of putting yourself first is that we really know how to empower ourselves and how to learn about our own bodies and learn how to move energy in our own bodies, that we're not just relying on or waiting for a doctor to tell us what's wrong and what should we do when 90% of the time they're not going to be interested in alternatives. They're only going to be saying you should take this medication or have this surgery. So I want to teach the women in my community how to take control of your own lymphatic system, your own immune system, and really learn how to open up the tissue around your breasts, because it is preventative health, not only from breast cancer, but any kind of cancer and any kind of immune disease. So stay tuned for that, and I hope that this video inspires you that when it does get released, it will require some investment on your part. It's not going to be crazy, but that is something, like when you see those things, these are the kinds of things I want you to be investing in. Whether it's with me or somebody else, you've got to invest in your own health so that you can be empowered and so that you can take your health to a new level that just has you feel more amazing than you ever thought you could. So those are my 3 powerful things that you could do to live the Ayurveda Everyday Pledge, which is enabling good health, well-being for yourself, your family, your community, and living in alignment with nature. So as always, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. You can join these live streams if you want to in my Facebook group, Ayurveda Every Day with Talya. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, Ayurveda Every Day with Talya, please go and do that as well. And I'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Have a great, happy Ayurveda day.